Hi, hello, and welcome to today's webinar on CAS Inspire Train, Trail and Transform. We're getting started with microbits. So my name is Alison Sheldon. I'm my colleague Tim Wilson, who will be moderating today. Bring in your questions to today's panel if we've got enough time at the end. During the session, please use the question window on the right-hand side of your screen to ask questions. All attendees should be in listen-only mode. If you're using social media, please for the event is hashtag CAS Inspire. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce the panel this afternoon. I'm delighted to be joined by Neil Crumpton and Carl McGrath. Now, Neil has had a wide and varied career, started life as a real-time embedded software engineer and was part of the team to produce the first ADSL broadband and fibre to the home. He then spent 16 years teaching physics, and I'm in awe, in a variety of schools with nearly 10 years as head of department. He now runs his own businesses, one providing STEM support to schools and the other making geeky merchandise. We also have Carl, who from early in his career has championed the importance of technology and the way it can support and improve outcomes for children. Now, as a computing lead, CAS community leader, and through working with the NCCE, he continues to work to champion the importance of technology training for the next generation of teachers. So thank you very much. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hand over to Neil. So the floor's yours, Neil.
Lovely, thank you very much, Alison. Right, good afternoon, everyone. Today what we're going to do is have a very quick whistle-stop tour of the microbit and how we use the microbit and what we can do to program it really simply. But before we do that, the first thing that we need to do is we need to actually know what a microbit is. And here you can see a nice image of the microbit. It's basically a tiny single board computer, and it's got a microprocessor on there that means it can run one program at a time. It can't have lots and lots of programs on there. You have to reinstall the new program each time, but it will run a program. And you can use the microbit to store programs and carry it around. You can make flashing name badges with it, temperature sensors, all sorts of different things to enable you to bring computing into the classroom. So let's have a quick look at the features on the microbit. So this is a version 2 microbit. You may find that some of you have got version 1 microbits around, but this is the new version 2. So we've got the buttons A and B, which you'll be used to from the previous one, the LED display, but it also has a light sensor in there. You've got GPIO pins, which are general purpose input-output pins for you to connect crocodile clips to and other devices. You've got a 3-volt power to power any external LEDs and things like that. You've got ground for completing your circuit. The new bit on the front here, though, is the touch logo. So the logo is now a little touch sensor, so you can touch it and it will do something, which is quite nice. And then you've got a little microphone LED to show that the microphone is on and listening. On the reverse of it is where the really interesting things are, where things have improved. So we've got a radio and Bluetooth antenna, so we can actually transmit between microbits. So you can have one in one location and it can be broadcasting the information to another microbit. We've got the processor on board, and it also has a temperature sensor. Now obviously that's only an ambient temperature sensor. You can't go and stick it in some water and see how hot the water is. That would be a bad idea. You've got a compass on there. You've got accelerometers just like in your mobile phones. You've got the reverse of the pins down the bottom. Got a micro USB, which is where you connect it to your computer. You've got a battery socket, so you can actually connect a battery pack to it to make it so that you can make it completely portable. You've got the USB interface chip. And now you've got a speaker, so you can make your microbit talk, which is nice. Before you used to have to connect it up to headphones and things like that. Now you can actually get it to talk using the onboard speaker. Microphones on there, you've got power LED and a yellow USB LED, and then you've got a reset and power button. So that's the basic features of the microbit. So now we know a little bit about our microbit. What can we do with it? Well, there are two options for when we program our microbit. You can either use the microbit online environment, which is really nice, and you can code it in Python, or you can use Mu, which is a downloadable bit of software. It's free, and you can use it with that, and it's got a nice little flash button that allows you to connect up your microbit and download the code. So what I thought we'd do is, if anyone does have a microbit in front of them that they've not used before, we'd do a little bit of a live coding demonstration. So what we're going to do is, if you take your microbit, so here I've got my version 2 microbit, and I'm going to connect it up to my computer using the USB, which of course only goes in one way round. And then here is my Mu programming environment. So I'm just going to type some code in here, and we're going to get the microbit to actually say hello to us. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to include a library. Now, a library is a range of pre-made functions that we can call, and we're going to import everything that we can. So that's why we're doing import star. Star is a wildcard that lets us import everything. And then what I want it to do is I want it to scroll across the display. Hello there. Oh, let's have a space in there though, so that it makes sense. Now you can see that with the Mu environment, it helps me by making things different colors and different emphasis and fonts, so that we can see where things are, and it pairs up my brackets for us. Now, in order to do this, all I'm going to do now is press the flash button, and it should flash, and then you should be able to see that it is saying hello there. And if there are any Star Wars fans in the room, you can make your microbit reply and say General Kenobi. And that's all there is to programming the microbit. So you can see, if I want it to run again, I have to flash it again. It downloads the program and then it runs again, because it's a very simple program. You could write it so that it has something that triggers it, like a button press, or anything like that. So you can see that we can easily program our microbit. There are other programs that you can do. There are inbuilt things like images that you can get it to display. We can use the accelerometer to get it to do something. So we can use the accelerometer chip to trigger something happening. And you can see that these programs are gradually building up in complexity. And then we've got this program, which is a little bit more complex. We've got a couple of if statements. So it's saying that if we press button A, then it's going to do something, or if we touch the pin logo, we do something else. Now, rather than you sit and watch me type all of that in, I've already typed it in. But if we have a look at our microbit again, we flash that across. Okay, so nothing's happening until I press button A, and it shows me a nice happy little face and says a nice little sound. And then if I touch the logo, it puts a surprised face on, and I can put the happy face back. So you can see that you could play with that for hours on end. Yeah, all right, sorry. So that code does that. You can see that there is a strong link between that. Now, your local computing hub will have kits of microbits that you can borrow for free for up to 6 weeks. to give you a chance to try using microbits in the classroom with your students. So what's in the kit if you borrow it? Well, you get 17 microbits, you get 17 battery packs for AAA batteries, you get 17 USB cables and 40 crop clips. So there is everything you need there to actually run a system, a class set, so that you can actually teach the students to program their microbits. And the microbits are then completely self-contained. So I've got a version 1 here with its battery pack on the back. And you can see that that is now a completely self-contained unit. I can take that away, the battery pack will power it, and I can go and do some environmental monitoring with that, or something else. There's lots of things that you can do with the microbits. There are lots of programs online teaching you how to turn these things into pedometers or wearable name badges and things like that. So it's a lot of good fun that you can have. So if these kits are something that you're interested in, how do you go about borrowing them? Well, you can borrow them, as I said, from your local hub. So for us in the North Midlands, you'd go to the North Midlands website. You'd hover over the resources section at the top, and you'll see that we've got a physical computing kit loan scheme link. You select that, and then you just click the relevant button to fill in the form. And you email that to your local computing hub. So for us in the North Midlands, it's teachcomputing@potteries.ac.uk. If you are elsewhere in the country, it's really easy to find your local hub. You go to teachcomputing.org/hubs, and there is a list of all of the hubs. If you type in your postcode or something, you'll find the nearest hub to you. So you can see where you can borrow these kits from. Now, to supplement this, there is also the Teach Computing curriculum. Now, the Teach Computing curriculum goes all the way from Key Stage 1 through to Key Stage 4, and it covers everything that students need to know according to the national curriculum. In Year 9, there is a specific physical computing module using the microbits, and there's a similar one in Year 6 as well. Teaching the students the introductions of how to use the microbits and how to program with them. So hopefully you can see that they're a relatively simple piece of kit, but they're something a little bit different. It's introducing hardware to students and getting them used to the idea that a computer doesn't have to be sat on a desk. It can be embedded into something, and you can have a little bit of fun with it and make it do nice funky things like that. So that's everything from me today. So thank you very much for listening. If you'd like to give us a little follow on Twitter, we're at Computing Hub SOT for Stoke-on-Trent for North Midlands. That's our web address. And I myself tweet out from @CrumptonN. So that's me done for today. So thank you very much for listening. And I'm going to hand you back to Tim and Alison.
Thank you, Neil. That was great, and live coding. Very impressed. Very impressed there. Okay, so now we're going to Carl's going to do a presentation for us. We have had a few technical issues, but Carl, do you need me to do the presenting for you?
Bear with me.
It's okay.
I think let me just see if we
Have
can
we
get
lost? Have we lost Carl?
No, I don't know if we have. Bear with me.
No.
Attend is my. I think it might be he's on mute. There we go. Let me unmute him.
Okay.
Or self-muted. Click to unmute. You should be able to unmute yourself, Carl.
I should be unmuted now. Yeah.
Okay, Carl. So if I'll do the presentation and then you just tell me when to move on. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine with me. Yeah.
Right. Let's give this a go. Let's see if this works. Okay. Can we see that?
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
Yep. Perfect. So
Okay.
if you just move along, if you don't mind, yeah. Just a brief introduction. I know Tim and Alison already did. Different to Neil, I'm a Year 6 teacher, so a lot of my experience is in primary, but obviously in Key Stage 2 or Upper Key Stage 2. So I think there's a lot of bridges we can gap with the microbits going in from primary to secondary. Helpfully, Neil's kind of covered quite a bit of what I was going to talk about to begin with. So obviously in terms of what the microbit is and obviously where you can get one and certain interfaces, I'll focus more on how I would use it. So if you don't mind, Alison, skipping ahead so to the how element of my slides.
Yeah, okay.
So just in terms of how I've used it, the history of my experience with the microbit. So it's something I came across sort of very by chance. And then thankfully, one of our parents works in computer science. So his company very generously donated some to the school. So we've been in a fairly fortunate position to be relatively early adopters with them. We just have the version 1 microbits. So I am a little bit jealous and excited of anybody that gets a hold of the version 2. Because we still have to connect to headphones with crocodile clips and so on. But I think there's excitement in that too. It's a nice element of tinkering. There's for the primary curriculum, and I suppose for the early Key Stage 3 curriculum, I know there's not specific units in terms of time and so on. But for me, the ways that you can use it is really the bridging the gap from the sort of digital programming over to the physical and showing children that, you know, you can flash a code onto your device and they can actually see that code come to life rather than an animation on a screen. So I think that's where the excitement comes. There's a lot of element of crossover, especially with the design and technology curriculum. And that's something that, you know, myself and our DT lead, and especially across our trust, we'll be working with a bit more. But ways in which I've used the microbit. So I started off very simply, making things like dice, rock, paper, scissors game. Then we sort of moved it a bit further and started to do things like a steady hand game. So I think it's either called steady hand or frustration. I think sometimes I get them confused, but that's when you move the little wand along the wire, which I've got some videos that hopefully when we come on to will work. A light sensor, which we've trialed for scientific investigation. So this was quite interesting. In year 4, the children programmed them, and it's just using the LED at the front to almost sense the light content. So obviously they shine and pick it up in almost a reverse polarity. I'm not fully sure how the science works, but the kids loved it. And it basically showed a number on the LED screen at the front that Neil was talking about. So they were able to see how much light was coming in. So we used that in year 4 to sort of check seasonal change throughout the day. So they were just sort of placed on the windows and referred to over intervals. And a really ambitious unit we tried in year 5, which sadly I don't have any videos of, was to make cardboard guitars. And I'll point, you know, in the direction of where you can get some resources to build those as well. But if you don't mind moving on to the next slide, Alison. So here there is a short video, and this is just so you can sort of see the code to begin with. This is the code we inputted in, and what we did as a class is obviously being a big fan of the Prim approach. This code was up at the beginning. Obviously, we predicted the outcome. You know, we ran it, investigated, and the children developed their own steady hand game based on this code and planned their sort of loops and wands. So if you can click on the link now, Alison, the YouTube link, sorry.
YouTube link, okay.
Yeah. And it should be a 5 or 6 second video, so it's not very long.
Can you see it?
Yeah. So it's brief, but what's happening in the video is the children, we programmed the microbit, so when the children move the wand around, anytime the wand touches the
sorry, you've got
no, it's fine.
Is
Little
it okay?
advert. Yeah, that's fine. Anytime the children touched it, it would show an X, and then it would bring up a number. I think we're playing a bit of Coco Melon there, Alison.
Yeah, sorry. I know. I don't
Anybody
know
that has any children?
Shall I just go back?
Oh, yeah, if you don't mind, sorry.
It's just. Oh, here you go.
Yeah. So anytime the wire and the wand touch, it shows an X, and then it'll start counting up a number. So it shows how many fails the children have made by touching it. Ways we developed it even further was the children started to add cheats to it or add in a 2-player element, which was quite interesting. The next thing we did was just programming a basic dice, and I think it is in the second video. Obviously, if you want to, you can show it, Alison, or I'm happy to
Yeah, hang on a
just for it to
second.
go in the chat.
I've just lost it now. Let me just try and get it back.
No,
Sorry.
it's fine.
Here you go. Is that okay?
It's
Shall we
only
go on
5
to
seconds.
Could you maybe put
that's
that on
fine.
as a
Just go on
link,
to the next.
maybe? Okay, shall I go on to the next
Yeah.
slide?
Yeah, that's fine.
Next one. That one? Is that okay?
I don't think I'm seeing the slide. So
I've just got the webinar screen.
yeah, there we
That's
go.
the one, yeah.
You got it now?
Yep, fabulous.
Perfect.
Okay, there you go. We got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant.
So just to sort of sum it up, basically, because I think Neil covered a lot of what I was going to say anyway, which is helpful to me considering I couldn't log on. Our whole network has crashed, which is always useful. But the main thing for me, the reason why I'm very passionate about the microbits is the cross-curricular elements. So as I said, we've used them in science. We're currently using them in DT. And obviously, we're trying to figure out other ways in which we can apply them. I think the more they're used, the more the children develop them. And I think in terms of coming from primary school all the way up to secondary school, if our children have come with that access already, it presents a really good scope for challenge when they go in. The main thing I love is the accessibility of them. So the fact that it goes from block to text-based coding. So it uses very nicely the Microsoft Make code. So if you haven't used the Microsoft Make code environment, I have put a link in the slides. But it's very similar to Scratch. I think somebody will probably correct me. It's based on JavaScript, and there is an option to switch over to Python text-based coding or Java text-based coding. So, it's really progressional. You can start at that block base, and then you can move on to your text-based as well. We use iPads because a previous computing lead moved completely on the iPads as our school. The only downside to that is it can be a little bit temperamental to Bluetooth because you can't physically plug a wire into the iPad and program the microbits. But it's not as, once the children get the hang of it and you've got digital leaders and children trained up to use them. So I often each year train up 3 children from each year group because we've got 3 form-entry classes. So there's always one person who's an expert in each software or physical computing kit that we're using. But you can program them on tablets, laptops, desktops, and Chromebooks. So, they're incredibly accessible. And, even if you don't have the microbits or you wanted to loan them and you didn't get the opportunity to this time, on the app and using Make code, they've got a virtual microbit that pops up on the left-hand side of the screen. So you can run your code on a virtual microbit as well, which just gives you the opportunity to tinker and practice with it before you flash it onto the microbit itself. But most importantly, I think the main thing is it just gives context to coding and programming. And I think Neil sort of summed it up when he was saying it. It just shows them that it's not just on a screen, or that computers aren't desktops or laptops or tablets. They can do something with the programs. And I have trialed it before, not successfully. Hopefully, I will this year. But as part of the I think it's the UN goals, so it's linked with COP26. The Microbit Foundation run sort of a scheme each year where children can produce designs and ideas to better improve lives of the environment using the microbits. And some of the things that children have come out with have been fantastic, like programming the microbit to sense whether you're sitting up straight or not to improve your posture. So, and if you don't mind going to the very last slide, Alison, just to say thank you very much. Yeah, and obviously you can, like Neil, follow me on Twitter at Mr. MICT. I have got my own separate website just with the link there, and I run a CAS community. So if you are based in Newcastle or the Northeast, you can always come along to my community meetings, and there I tweet things out at hub_CAS, which is I feel like I've locked into that Twitter handle, but. So yeah, obviously, if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to stick around.
Thank you, Carl. That was great. You really put it into context there, so that was fantastic. I think, Tim, have we got time for a couple of questions? Do you think?
Yes, and I think these questions can serve as a kind of reiteration of some of the points that both Carl and Neil have made. I think first good question. This isn't a reiteration, perhaps, is where's a good place to get resources and planning where to get going?
Yeah, so obviously the microbit.org website is really good. There's lots and lots of things on there, and it takes you through how to program for different challenges. Alison, if I could just very quickly share my screen, I can show people the website directly.
Yeah.
I'll sort this. Hold on.
Can you do that?
Yeah, there you go.
Lovely, thank you, Tim. So if you go to microbit.org, you can go through, and here's the two code editors. So being a secondary teacher, I'm usually using Python, but for the primary, you'd want to use the block editor. And then if you look there are loads of different projects that it will take you through and take your class through so that they can work through at their own time and their own pace. And there are loads and loads and loads of different ideas. The banana keyboard is a particular favourite of mine.
Yeah, that looks fun.
Okay, there you go.
Is the banana keyboard like with the makey? Is it a similar sort of thing?
No, all you do is you take your microbit and you connect a ground wire to something for someone to hold, and then each banana is connected to each pin, and when they touch the banana it completes the circuit, and then the microbit plays a note. So
right.
you just need some bananas and wires.
Okay.
Quite good fun. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Neil. Tim, have we got any other questions?
Yeah, always love a banana piano. Never get
It's so good. It's the way forward, I think.
Absolutely. How similar is the microbit to the Raspberry Pi? Ooh.
Carl, could you answer that, or Neil?
Yeah, I can answer it from a primary perspective. I think we were gifted some Raspberry Pis, so we got some funding and got them. Sadly, they ended up in a cupboard for about 3 years, I think. And for primary, unless I was running a very, rapid grasping code club, that just weren't useful. Obviously, for me, the advantage of the microbit over the Raspberry Pi is it's out of the box. It's got its own little LED screen. It can do things quite simply without downloading extra software or connecting it to any other peripherals. So I don't need too much to just get started. I think that's the advantage for me. I'm sure Neil would expand on it a bit more or back it up.
Yeah, no, definitely, Carl. The Raspberry Pi is a computer in itself, so you can actually run Open Office and things like that on it. So it's a really good, cheap desktop solution for word processing and things like that. But if you're wanting to engage students with physical computing, to start them off, I would go with the Crumbles at Key Stage 1, maybe into Key Stage 2, and then the Microbits Key Stage 2 to 3. And then we actually have something called the Raspberry Pi Pico, which is an embedded microprocessor that you can then actually build separate components in, and this is a little reaction timer game where you press the button and it lights the LED to say who's won. I just happen to have that sitting on my desk like you do.
Thank you, that's great. Tim, have we got time for a very quick one, do you think?
Very quick one, and I think it's a good little reference point here, is how many microbits do you think a classroom needs in order for it to be effective?
Yeah, I want to know this actually.
So personally, I would go sorry, Carl, I would go one between two, because then you can do paired programming.
Yeah.
Carl, feel free, add on to that.
Yeah, no, I was going to say the same. Like I said, we're lucky enough we've got one between two. And obviously, when you're borrowing them from your computing hubs, it might be slightly under or more. But I definitely think one between two easy, because you need somebody programming and need somebody checking all the time.
Thank you. Oh, thank you, Neil and Carl. That was brilliant. I found that so useful as a primary school teacher. I found it really useful. So thank you, Neil. Thank you, Carl, for participating. Thank you, Tim, for doing all the tricky bits for me. That was very kind of you. To all our attendees, please could you share your personal highlights from today's session? I think you agree with me. It was really, really good. Via social media and the CAS website, and the hashtag again is hashtag CAS Inspire. At the end of the webinar, there'll just be a short survey, and we're really grateful if you could just take a minute to complete this. And thank you for attending as well, by the way. I must say thank you to you for attending. Please continue to spread the word about CAS Inspire. There'll be more CAS Inspire sessions. We'll be hosting more CAS Inspire sessions throughout the year. Next Wednesday, we're discussing Sonic Pi, which is great, using Sonic Pi, brilliant. So if you could join us for that next week, that'd be fantastic. So just thank you for joining, and we hope to see you all next time, and goodbye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.
Bye, thanks a lot.